My boyfriend told his friends I was possessive and obsessed with him, so they planned to humiliate me in public. I knew something was off when he started calling me controlling for asking where he'd been until 3 in the morning. That's what he did. Twist everything until I questioned my own sanity. My boyfriend had this way of making me feel crazy for having basic boundaries, like wanting to know if he was coming home or if I should just go to bed alone. Again. We'd been together for almost 2 years when the problems really started. Or maybe they'd been there all along and I was just too in love to see them clearly. In the beginning, he'd been attentive and sweet, sending good morning texts and planning thoughtful dates. He told me I was different from his exes, that he'd never felt this way about anyone before. I should have noticed how quickly he said those things, how easily the words came. People who mean them usually take longer to say them. But somewhere around the 18-month mark, things shifted. He started going out more without me, coming home later, being vague about who he'd been with. When I'd ask simple questions, just normal "how was your night" kind of questions, he'd get defensive, accused me of interrogating him, said I was being clingy and insecure, made me feel like wanting basic communication was somehow a character flaw. The flirting at parties had been going on for months. He'd touch someone's arm a little too long, laugh a little too loud at their jokes, lean in close enough that I could see the other person getting ideas. And when I'd bring it up later, calmly, trying not to sound like the jealous girlfriend he always accused me of being, he'd roll his eyes and tell me it was just harmless fun, that I needed to loosen up, that this was why his friends thought I was uptight. I started doubting myself constantly. Was I being too sensitive? Were my expectations unreasonable? Maybe I needed to be cooler, more relaxed, less needy. I'd find myself apologizing for bringing up concerns, backing down from conversations before they even started, swallowing my discomfort to keep the peace. His friends. God, his friends were the worst part of it all. They'd make these pointed comments whenever I was around, jokes about controlling girlfriends and how some people just can't handle their partners having fun. They'd laugh like it was the funniest thing in the world, looking right at me while they did it. My boyfriend would laugh too, never once defending me, never once telling them to back off. I should have seen it then, that he was setting the stage for something bigger, that all of this was leading somewhere. The birthday party was on a Saturday night in late September. One of his friends was turning 26 and had rented out this warehouse space downtown, the kind with exposed brick and string lights everywhere, trying to look artistic and cool. There must have been 60 or 70 people there. Music so loud you had to yell to be heard. Everyone drinking too much too fast, the way people do when they're trying to prove they're having a good time. I wore the black suit my boyfriend said he liked, the one that made me feel confident, and I did my makeup carefully because I wanted to look good for him. Pathetic, looking back on it now, trying so hard to be enough when he'd already decided I wasn't. I'd even spent 40 minutes on my hair, curling it the way he'd mentioned he found attractive months ago. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted him to look at me the way he used to, before the distance crept in, before every interaction became a minefield of potential accusations. He barely looked at me when we arrived. Just walked ahead into the crowd, immediately finding his friends and falling into their circle like I wasn't even there. I followed a few steps behind, feeling awkward and out of place, clutching my purse too tightly. His friends acknowledged me with these tight little smiles that didn't reach their eyes. The kind of smiles that say, "Oh, you're here," instead of, "Glad you could make it." The music was some deep bass-heavy track that made conversation nearly impossible. People were clustered in groups throughout the space, holding those clear plastic cups filled with overly strong mixed drinks. The birthday girl, I'd only met her twice before, waved at me from across the room but didn't come over to say hello. Nobody came over to say hello. I was just there, existing on the periphery of my boyfriend's social world, tolerated but not welcomed. That's when I saw him, the ex. Standing near the makeshift bar in a suit so tight and low-cut it was basically an announcement. My boyfriend had told me they dated for 8 months about 3 years ago, that it ended mutually, that there were no hard feelings, and they were just friends now. He'd never mentioned that the ex was going to be there that night. Funny how that detail just slipped his mind. Funny how he'd had 3 days to mention it after seeing the guest list, but somehow never found the right moment. The ex saw my boyfriend and smiled. Not a friendly smile, but the kind of smile that says, "I know something you don't know." He walked over, his heels clicking on the concrete floor, and put his hand on my boyfriend's arm. Not a casual touch, a possessive touch, the kind of touch that lasts several seconds too long. My boyfriend didn't pull away. He smiled back, leaned in, said something I couldn't hear over the music. The ex laughed and moved closer. And that's when I noticed his friends positioning themselves strategically around the room, phones out, angled toward where my boyfriend and the ex were standing. They were setting up for something. They were planning to capture whatever was about to happen. I tried to approach them, tried to insert myself into the conversation like a normal girlfriend would, but my boyfriend turned his back to me, literally turned his entire body away, creating a wall with his shoulders. The ex looked at me over my boyfriend's shoulder and smirked. I felt my face get hot, felt the humiliation of being shut out so deliberately in front of all these people who already thought I was the problem. For the next 3 hours, I watched my boyfriend ignore me completely. He bought drinks for the ex, expensive cocktails, the kind he always said were a waste of money when I wanted one. He laughed at everything the ex said, touched his waist, whispered in his ear. His friends hovered nearby with their phones, waiting. I knew I should leave. Every rational part of my brain was screaming at me to just walk out, to have some dignity. But I was frozen, paralyzed by the horrifying realization that this was planned, that all of it was deliberate. It was 11:17 when it happened. I know because I was checking my phone, thinking about calling a car to leave, when I heard someone yell, "Finally!" I looked up just in time to see my boyfriend grab the ex by the waist and pull his in for a kiss. Not a quick kiss, not a peck, a full, intense, open-mouthed kiss that lasted at least 30 seconds while everyone around them cheered. His friends started screaming immediately. "He deserved that!" one of them yelled, pointing at me. "That's what you get for being so controlling," another one shouted. They were all filming. At least 5 phones pointed at me, capturing my face as I stood there trying to process what had just happened, capturing my humiliation for posterity, for social media, for proof that they'd successfully destroyed me. I don't remember leaving the party. I know I grabbed my jacket and walked out, but my brain kind of short-circuited. People were staring at me, some looking sympathetic, most looking entertained. The birthday girl called out something about drama always finding a way to the party, and everyone laughed. I made it to my car and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, shaking, unable to drive. The messages started before I even got home. My boyfriend, suddenly very articulate despite being drunk. "You're so dramatic. You're ruining everything. This is exactly why I can't deal with you. You're making this into something it's not." 43 messages in total, each one more aggressive than the last, each one finding new ways to blame me for him publicly humiliating me. Then came the social media posts. 7 stories throughout the night, each one showing his dancing with different men, laughing, having the time of his life, captions about freedom and being single and living your best life. He posted all of that while we were still technically together, while I was crying in my apartment, while his friends were probably already posting the videos they'd taken of me standing there like an idiot. The next morning, a mutual friend sent me screenshots of a group chat. My boyfriend bragging to him friends about how he'd put me in my place, how I would come crawling back like always, how he'd tested my limits and won. The friends congratulating his, telling him he was a queen, that he deserved someone who wouldn't suffocate his. Reading those messages, seeing the cruelty laid out so plainly, was somehow worse than watching the kiss happen. He showed up at my apartment at 3 in the morning 2 days later, drunk and reeking of alcohol mixed with perfume I didn't recognize. He was banging on my door so loud that my neighbor stuck his head out to see what was happening. I opened the door because I was worried he'd wake the entire building and we'd get complaints to the landlord. And he stumbled in without waiting for invitation, immediately going on the offensive. "You're being ridiculous," he slurred, dropping onto my couch without asking. "Everyone cheats. At least I did it in front of you. At least I was honest about it." I stared at him. "You think that makes it better? God, you're so uptight." He waved his phone at me. "It was just a kiss. People kiss at parties. You're acting like I killed someone. Your friends filmed me crying. They screamed that I deserved it. They were drunk. Everyone was drunk. You're making it into this huge thing. You kissed your ex for 30 seconds while I stood there watching. That's not drunk. That's a choice. You know what?" He sat up straighter, eyes focusing. "You want to talk about choices? Christmas, remember? When you left me alone for 3 days?" My stomach dropped, a cold feeling spreading through my chest. "What about Christmas? Your sister's friend, the one with the dark hair. We hooked up." He said it so casually, like he was telling me about a TV show he'd watched. "You never even noticed. You never know anything. You just walk around acting like you're so perfect and I'm the problem, but you're clueless. Christmas. That was 9 months ago. 9 months of pretending everything was fine while knowing he'd been with someone else. 9 months of me thinking we were working through our issues when really he was just testing how much he could get away with. So this wasn't a one-time thing, I said slowly, my voice surprisingly steady. This is a pattern. You've been testing me for months to see what I'll tolerate. He laughed, actually laughed. Testing you? Babe, you always come back, you always forgive me, that's kind of your thing. What do you mean, always? I asked. How many times have you done this? Does it matter? He waved his hand dismissively. You never leave. You threaten to. You get upset, you make me feel bad for a day or two, and then you forgive me and we move on. It's like clockwork. So you kept pushing to see how far you could go. I kept pushing because that's how relationships work, he said, standing up and wobbling slightly. You think your parents never tested each other? You think anyone stays together without pushing boundaries sometimes? There's a difference between normal relationship conflicts and deliberately humiliating your partner in public, I said. God, you're so dramatic. He rolled his eyes. Just like you'll forgive this. Give it a week. You'll realize you overreacted and we'll be fine. We always are. I didn't respond. I just opened the door and waited for him to leave. He stared at me for a long moment, then shrugged and walked out. Call me when you're done being dramatic, he said over his shoulder. I closed the door and locked it. Then I blocked his number, blocked him on every social media platform, blocked him on every messaging app. Complete silence. Total erasure. My hands were shaking as I did it. Not from fear or doubt, but from the adrenaline of finally taking control. Every block felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that I'd given away. Every deleted contact felt like closing a door that should have been closed months ago. I called Kelsey right after. I did it. Blocked his everywhere. How do you feel? Powerful. Is that weird? Not even a little. That's what real boundaries feel like. I'm proud of you. He's going to lose it when he realizes I mean it this time. Let him. His feelings aren't your problem anymore. You spent 2 years managing his emotions. Where did it get you? He was right. I'd spent so long trying to be the perfect girlfriend, trying to prove I wasn't controlling or jealous, trying to make his happy at the expense of my own sanity. I'd forgotten what it felt like to prioritize my own peace over someone else's comfort. I thought about what Maya had said earlier. Half the office saw that video. We're all rooting for you. It hit me then. I wasn't alone in this. I'd felt so isolated for months, like I was the problem, like everyone saw me the way his friends did. But that wasn't true. People could see what was happening. They just didn't know how to help until I helped myself first. The messages came through mutual friends over the next 3 days. 34 attempts to reach me, starting with accusations that I was being immature and escalating to desperate pleas for me to just talk to him. The tone shift was dramatic. From "you're being ridiculous," to "please, I'm sorry, I need to explain," to "I can't believe you're throwing away what we had over one mistake." One mistake. He was still calling it one mistake. His friends reached out too, initially to defend his, but their messages got more concerned as the days passed. He's really upset, one wrote. He didn't think you'd actually leave. Another, can you just hear his out? He's having a breakdown. The most honest one, he's panicking. I don't think he expected you to actually have boundaries. On day 6, he showed up at my workplace. I work as a junior graphic designer at a small marketing firm downtown. Nothing fancy. Just a 12-person team working out of a converted office building. He knew my schedule, knew exactly when I'd be coming down for my lunch break at 12:30. He was waiting in the lobby when I stepped out of the elevator, looking like he hadn't slept properly in days. Makeup smudged under his eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants and an old hoodie that I recognized as one he usually only wore at home. The receptionist, Maya, looked uncomfortable, clearly having tried to get his to leave already and failed. Maya caught my eye and mouthed, "Want me to call someone?" I shook my head slightly. "Thea, please," he said immediately, standing up from the uncomfortable lobby chair he'd been sitting in. His voice was hoarse, like he'd been crying recently. "We need to talk. Just give me 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." "We don't," I said as calmly as I could manage, acutely aware that Maya was watching this unfold, that my coworkers might come down at any moment, that I was about to have a very personal confrontation in a very professional space. I walked past his toward the door, my lunch bag in hand, trying to maintain some dignity. He followed me out into the parking lot. His footsteps hurried behind mine. "I'm sorry," he called out. "I'm sorry for how everything looked. It wasn't what you think. I was drunk, and my friends were egging me on, and the music was so loud I barely knew what was happening, and..." I stopped walking and turned to face his, cutting off his spiral of excuses. "What exactly are you sorry for?" I interrupted. "Be specific. Tell me precisely what action you're apologizing for. He blinked several times, seeming thrown by the question. What? Tell me exactly what you're apologizing for. I repeated slowly. Not how it looked, not how I interpreted it, not the circumstances around it. What did you do that you're sorry for? Use specific words. He opened and closed his mouth several times, and I watched him struggle to find words that would admit fault without actually admitting fault. I'm sorry that you feel like I betrayed you. I'm sorry that you're too sensitive to understand when something is just harmless fun between friends. I'm sorry that you saw something innocent and turned it into this huge relationship-ending drama. I'm sorry that... So you're not actually sorry for kissing your ex in front of me, I said flatly, cutting through his verbal gymnastics. You're not sorry for humiliating me at a party. You're not sorry for your friends filming me while they screamed that I deserved it. You're not sorry for any of your actions. You're just sorry that I'm too sensitive to accept being treated like garbage. It's not like that, he protested, reaching out toward me and then dropping his hand when I stepped back. You're twisting my words. You're making it sound worse than it was. No, I'm actually listening to your words for the first time in months, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. I'm hearing what you're saying instead of what I want you to be saying. And you're not apologizing for anything you did. You're apologizing for my reaction to what you did. There's a massive difference. Everyone has problems, he said desperately. Every couple fights. This is about trust. We can work through this. It's about you cheating on me in public. I cut his off. It's about you with someone at Christmas. It's about you bragging to your friends that I'd come crawling back. This isn't a fight. This is who you are. He reached for my arm. 2 years, Thea. Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything, I said, pulling away. That's why this hurts. That's why I'm done. You're being emotional. Just give it a few days. I am calm. For the first time in months, I'm seeing clearly. I'm not making excuses for you anymore. I'm not convincing myself this is my fault. I'm just done. Done with what? With being your test subject. With wondering how much I'll tolerate. With you enjoying that you can hurt me and I'll stay. I turned and walked back into my building, leaving his standing there. Through the window, I watched him get into his car and drive away. My hands were shaking, but I felt clear-headed for the first time in months. Maybe in years. Maya was waiting by the elevators when I came back in. You okay? He asked quietly. Yeah, I am. Good. He handed me a post-it note. If he comes back, this is security's direct line. I already told them about the situation. They'll escort his out, no questions asked. Thank you, Maya. And for what it's worth? He hesitated. Half the office saw that video going around. We're all rooting for you. I felt my eyes sting. That means more than you know. That evening, I did something I should have done immediately. I called my parents and told them everything. Not a sanitized version, not a vague, we had problems explanation. Everything. The months of flirting and gaslighting, the birthday party, the kiss, the videos, the group chat messages, Christmas. I sent them the video someone had posted of the kiss. I sent them screenshots of the group chat where he bragged about controlling me. My mother was silent for a long time after I finished. That girl, he said finally, his voice barely controlled, came to our house. We fed his, treated his like family. I know, Mom. Why didn't you tell us? My father's voice broke through, loud and angry. We could have... I thought I could handle it. And I was ashamed. He made me feel like everything was my fault. Thea. My mother's voice was firm now. We would never think that. Never. I know that now. Silence on the line for a moment. What do you need from us? My father asked. Just be on my side. He might try to contact you. I need you to know the truth. We're always on your side, my mother said. Always. You're our daughter. We trust you. Even though I stayed with him for so long after the first signs, especially because of that, my father said. Recognizing manipulation while you're in it is nearly impossible. What matters is you got out. You're safe now. 20 minutes later, my mother called back. His mother just called me, he said, sounding furious. He said his son is having a mental health crisis and needs family support. He said we need to convince you to work things out, that young couples always have drama, but they work through it. What did you tell his? I asked. I told him to watch the video I was sending his. Then I explained, very clearly, exactly what his son did. The public kiss, the group chat, the friend who filmed your humiliation. My mother's voice was cold in a way I'd rarely heard. He tried to defend his, said we were only hearing one side. So I sent his the screenshots too. Then he hung up on me. My father got on the line. If he contacts us again, we're blocking his. If he shows up here, we're calling the police. That girl is not welcome in this family. The next day, my ex-boyfriend appeared at my parents' house. My father told me about it that evening, his voice tight with controlled anger. He'd shown up around noon, looking apologetic and respectful, asking to speak with them about the misunderstanding. He told us you have jealousy issues, my father said, that you've always been controlling, that the kiss at the party was innocent and you blew it out of proportion. He said he's willing to go to couples therapy if it means you'll take his back, and he asked us to convince you to give his another chance. What did you say? I asked. Nothing, he said. I listened. I let his tell his whole story. He was very convincing. Thea, if I didn't already know the truth, I might have believed his. And then I told him goodbye and closed the door. An hour later, I called him back. He paused. I confronted his about the group chat messages, about the videos from the party, about your sister's friend at Christmas. I asked him why. If everything was so innocent, did his friends feel the need to film your reaction? Why were they screaming that you deserved it? What did he say? First, he tried to deny it, said I must have seen doctored screenshots. Then when I told him I'd watched the video myself, he changed tactics, said his friends were exaggerating to make his seem confident. He said the video was shot at a bad angle. He said the group chat was just talk, that girls exaggerate in group chats all the time. I felt my jaw tighten. He had an excuse for everything. He did, my father confirmed. Then I asked him why he came to our house and lied instead of admitting what he'd done. You know what he said? That he was trying to protect your reputation. That he didn't want us to know how dramatically you'd reacted because it would make you look bad. Protecting my reputation, I repeated flatly. By lying to my parents about being abusive. I told him that lying to your girlfriend's parents to manipulate them is not protection. My father continued. It's cowardice. It's calculated manipulation. And then I hung up on his. But I wasn't done. I was tired of reacting, tired of being on defense, tired of letting his control the narrative even after I'd ended things. I wanted everyone to know the truth. Not my version, not his version, but the objective truth that had been caught on camera and saved in screenshots. The truth that couldn't be argued with or spun into something else. I scheduled a meeting with both families. My parents, my younger sister Kelsey, his parents, his younger brother who was 19 and still living at home. Neutral location, a private room at a coffee shop I'd found online, $20 an hour to rent. I prepared everything carefully, printed stills from the video, printed screenshots of the group chat with dates and timestamps, a handwritten timeline of events so nobody could claim I was exaggerating or misremembering. I wasn't going to let his twist this anymore. I wasn't going to let his parents continue believing that I was the problem. His parents arrived looking defensive, like they were coming to their son's rescue from an unreasonable girlfriend who didn't understand young love. His mother kept saying things like, young relationships are hard, and everyone makes mistakes when they're still learning how to be in love. And we all do things we regret when emotions are high, before we even sat down, before anyone had explained why we were there. His father looked uncomfortable, like he didn't want to be there at all, like he'd been dragged to this meeting against his will. His brother sat quietly in the corner, scrolling through his phone, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. My parents were calm but tense. My mother's jaw tight in that way it gets when he's controlling his anger. Kelsey sat next to me, his hand on my arm, offering silent support. I'd told him everything already, shown his everything, and he'd been furious on my behalf. The kind of protective fury only siblings can have for each other. I set up my laptop on the table without saying much, letting the anticipation build. His mother was still talking, something about how proud they were of their son for being willing to work on things. I let his finish. Then I turned the laptop screen to face everyone. Before anyone says anything else, I said quietly, I need you to watch this. I played the video. 38 seconds of my boyfriend pulling his ex in for an intense kiss while his friends screamed and filmed me. You could hear them shouting, he deserved that, and this is perfect content. You could see me in the background, frozen. You could see people laughing. His mother's hand went to his mouth within the first 10 seconds. He kept murmuring, oh no, oh no, oh no, under his breath, the same two words over and over like a prayer or a mantra. His father's jaw tightened visibly. His eyes fixed on the screen, not blinking, not looking away even though I'm sure he wanted to. His brother stopped scrolling through his phone, his eyes wide, staring at the screen with his mouth slightly open. When the video ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. The silence was heavy, suffocating. Then I opened the folder of screenshots. The messages where their son bragged about putting me in my place. The friends congratulating his for not letting me control his anymore. The message where he said I'd come crawling back like always. His mother turned to look at his son with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure devastation mixed with disappointment. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. That look said everything. His father shook his head slowly. "Is this real?" he asked quietly. His daughter opened his mouth to explain, but no sound came out. The weight of his parents' silence was crushing. "I tried to tell you," he finally managed, his voice cracking. "I tried to explain." "Explain what?" his mother asked, still in that quiet, devastated voice. "Explain how you humiliated someone in public? Explain how you and your friends planned this? Explain why you bragged about it afterwards?" "It wasn't supposed to be like that," my ex-boyfriend said desperately. "My friends, they got in my head. They said I was being too serious, that I needed to prove I wasn't controlled." "So you proved it by destroying someone you claim to love?" his father asked. He stood up. "We're going home. You're coming with us. And we're going to have a very long conversation about who you've become." They left. My family stayed with me for another hour, making sure I was okay, asking if I needed anything. My sister put his arm around me and said, "You handled that perfectly. I'm proud of you." But the fallout was just beginning. His friends, the ones who had filmed and screamed and celebrated my humiliation, started posting on social media within days of the family meeting. Vague posts about loyalty and standing by your friends no matter what. Posts implying I was vindictive and cruel for airing private relationship problems in public. Posts suggesting I was the controlling girlfriend who couldn't handle his partner having innocent fun with friends. The posts were carefully worded to avoid directly mentioning the kiss or the party. Instead, focusing on abstract concepts like forgiveness and growth and learning from mistakes. "Real friends don't abandon people when they're struggling." One post read, with a photo of hands holding, "Cancel culture has gone too far when we can't make mistakes without our entire lives being destroyed," another proclaimed. They were building a counter-narrative, slowly and methodically, trying to paint themselves as the real victims of my alleged cruelty. Some people who didn't know the full story started liking these posts, commenting supportive things. "So true," someone wrote. "Everyone deserves second chances." Another comment. "People are so quick to judge without knowing both sides." I watched in real time as my ex-boyfriend's reputation slowly rebuilt itself through careful social media management and the unwavering loyalty of friends who refused to admit they'd crossed an unforgivable line. They were succeeding in muddying the waters, in making people question whether I'd overreacted, whether maybe I was the problem after all. One of his closer friends posted a long essay about emotional abuse in relationships, never naming me directly, but clearly describing behaviors that sounded like control and manipulation. Behaviors that I'd allegedly subjected my ex-boyfriend to. The post gained significant traction, with dozens of people sharing it and commenting about how important it was to recognize emotional abuse. I read through it feeling sick, seeing my completely reasonable boundaries reframed as controlling behavior. Asking where someone is at 3 a.m. became demanding to know their location at all times. Expressing hurt over public flirting became policing normal social interactions. It was masterful gaslighting on a public scale. But then something unexpected happened. One of the people tagged in my sister's post, someone who'd been at the party and witnessed everything, commented on the essay. "I was there that night. I saw what actually happened. This narrative you're pushing is not what any of us witnessed. Stop trying to rewrite history." Another person chimed in, "I unfollowed you after that party because I couldn't stomach watching you all celebrate someone's pain. Don't pretend this was about boundaries when we all saw the videos you were planning to post." The essay was deleted within 20 minutes, so I posted the video. Not with a long caption explaining my side of everything, not with dramatic accusations or emotional manipulation, just the video, raw and unedited, with a simple, factual description. "This is what happened at the party on September 23rd. This is what was filmed and celebrated by multiple people. Make your own conclusions." The response was immediate and overwhelming. People I hadn't talked to in years commented. Mutual friends who had been silent suddenly spoke up. "I was there," one person wrote. "I saw everything. This video doesn't even show the worst of it. His friends were laughing and high-fiving each other while you stood there crying. Nobody deserves that." Another comment. "I stopped being friends with him after that night. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Most of us left early because we felt so uncomfortable." The ex who had kissed my boyfriend posted his own apology within hours. I need to apologize publicly. I knew he was in a relationship. I knew what we were doing was wrong. I let myself get caught up in the moment, and I participated in hurting someone who didn't deserve it. I'm sorry, Thea. You didn't deserve any of that. Even people from the party I didn't know personally reached out privately. I'm friends with your sister. One message read, I wanted you to know that everyone was talking about how messed up that was after you left. The birthday girl actually asked that group to leave because they were making everyone uncomfortable. None of us thought what happened was okay. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, comments of support, messages from people sharing their own stories of public humiliation. Friends I hadn't heard from in months reaching out to check on me. My ex-boyfriend's friends started deleting their defensive posts within the hour. One by one, their carefully crafted narratives disappeared. One by one, their carefully crafted narratives disappeared. The ones who had screamed and filmed went private on social media. One of them posted a non-apology about emotions running high at parties before deleting his entire account. The architecture of lies they'd built collapsed in less than 48 hours. My ex-boyfriend sent me a message through a mutual friend. Please take down the video. We need to talk in person. I have things you need to know. Part of me wanted to ignore his completely, but curiosity won. I agreed to meet his at him apartment one last time. He looked terrible when he opened the door. Unwashed hair, baggy clothes, dark circles under his eyes. His apartment was a mess. Dishes piled in the sink, laundry everywhere, the blinds closed even though it was mid-afternoon. He'd clearly been falling apart. Thank you for coming, he said quietly, not meeting my eyes. I know you didn't have to. You said you had something important to tell me. I stayed standing near the door, ready to leave. So tell me. He sat down on his couch, pulling his knees to his chest. The party. My friends planned it. They invited my ex specifically to provoke a reaction from you. They wanted you to make a scene so they could film it and prove you were the crazy, controlling girlfriend they'd been saying you were. I waited. There had to be more. It was a test, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. They'd been telling me for months that I was too soft on you, that I needed to establish dominance in the relationship. They said kissing someone in front of you would either make you leave, which would prove you didn't really love me, or make you fight for me harder, which would prove I had the power. So you deliberately humiliated me as a relationship test, I said flatly. Christmas too, he admitted. Your sister's friend. That was also a test. I wanted to see if you'd notice, if you'd fight for me, if you'd set boundaries. But you didn't notice, so I thought I could keep pushing further. How many times? I asked quietly. How many other tests were there that I don't even know about? He looked down at him hands. A few. Nothing physical after Christmas. But I'd flirt with people in front of you to see how you'd react. I'd make plans without telling you to see if you'd get upset. I'd ignore your texts for hours to see if you'd panic. All deliberately. All deliberately, he confirmed. And every time you didn't react the way my friends said you would, didn't get angry, didn't accuse me, didn't try to control me, they said it meant you didn't really care. That you were either too weak to stand up for yourself or too confident that I'd never actually leave. So the kiss at the party was supposed to finally get a reaction. The kiss at the party was supposed to be the ultimate test, he said. Either you'd storm out and never come back, proving you didn't love me enough to fight for me, or you'd make a scene, proving you were the controlling girlfriend they'd been saying you were. They were going to film it either way and use it as proof of whatever narrative they wanted. I felt nauseous. What if I'd done neither? What if I'd just stood there like I did? They didn't plan for that, he admitted. That's why they started screaming at you. They were trying to provoke you into reacting. They needed you to do something. Cry, yell, fight back, anything, so they'd have content. Your silence made them panic, so they got louder. He pulled out his phone and showed me videos I hadn't seen before. His and the ex, after I left the party, groping each other in a corner. His friends in the background planning which videos to post and when. Audio of them discussing how many followers they'd gain from the drama. They wanted to destroy you on social media, he said, tears starting to run down his face. They said your humiliation would be entertaining content. They had it all planned out. A week of posts, different angles of the video, screenshots of you crying. They wanted to make you internet famous for being pathetic. I felt sick. Not surprised, but sick. And you went along with all of this. They said it would make our relationship better. He sobbed. They said keeping you a little insecure would keep you invested. They said it was just how relationships work now, that I was being too soft and old-fashioned by trying to be loyal and kind. So you were just following bad advice, I said sarcastically. You're a victim of your manipulative friends. Is that what you're trying to tell me? No. He looked up at me, mascara running down his face. No, I'm trying to tell you that I'm worse than you think. That it wasn't just one kiss, it was calculated cruelty. That I enjoyed having that much control over you. That some part of me liked knowing I could hurt you, and you'd stay. He wiped his face roughly. I'm trying to tell you the full truth because you deserve to know what you're walking away from. I stared at him for a long moment. This was what honesty looked like. Raw, ugly, too late. Why are you telling me this now? Because you're going to tell my parents, he said simply. I saw how you handled the family meeting. You're methodical. You're done protecting me. So I figured I might as well tell you everything so when you destroy what's left of my life, at least you're doing it with complete information. He was right. I was going to tell his parents. They deserved to know who their son had become, what he was capable of. But I wanted to give his one chance to do it himself. You have 1 hour, I said, checking my phone. 1 hour to tell your parents the full truth. The planned humiliation, the tests, Christmas, all of it. If you don't, I will. And I'll bring the videos you just showed me. His eyes went wide. You can't? 1 hour, I repeated. And I'm starting the timer now. I turned and left him apartment, already preparing the file I'd send to him parents if he didn't follow through. He called me 6 times in the next 45 minutes, sent 17 messages, begged for more time, promised he'd tell them tomorrow, swore he'd do it in person this weekend. Every excuse possible to avoid the immediate consequences of his actions. At the 59-minute mark, I forwarded everything to him parents. The new videos, detailed notes on our conversation, a timeline of the manipulation, screenshots of his desperate messages trying to negotiate more time. Then I sent a message to him. Time's up. I gave you a chance to tell them yourself. You chose not to. His mother called him immediately. I know because my ex-boyfriend called me sobbing, saying his parents were demanding answers about the new information. I hung up. Whatever happened in that conversation was between them. My sister posted on social media that night a long, detailed account of what he'd witnessed at the party. He'd been there, had seen everything, and he wrote it all out plainly. The setup, the kiss, the friends screaming and filming, my humiliation. He tagged multiple people who'd been present, forcing them to either confirm or deny. Most of them confirmed. Some stayed silent. None denied it. 8 mutual friends publicly chose sides. 6 sided with me. 2, both close friends of my ex-boyfriend, stayed neutral with carefully worded posts about not knowing all the details. Those neutral posts looked damning in the context of everyone else's confirmations. My ex-boyfriend had a complete breakdown. He sent me a voice message at 2 a.m, crying so hard he could barely speak, offering to do anything. Therapy, public apology, cutting off his friends. If I would just help his fix things with him parents. If I would just stop exposing his. I listened to the message once. His sobs were raw, genuine, the kind of crying that comes from real panic and desperation. I know I messed up, he gasped between sobs. I know I hurt you so badly, but my parents won't even look at me now. My mom cried for 3 hours after he saw those videos. My dad hasn't said a word to me. They're talking about making me move out. I don't know what to do. Please, Thea. I'll do anything. I'll cut off every friend who was at that party. I'll go to therapy every week. I'll apologize to you publicly in front of everyone. Just please help me fix this with my family. Part of me, the part that had loved his for 2 years, felt a twinge of sympathy. But the larger part, the part that had been methodically broken down over months of manipulation, felt nothing but relief that I was no longer responsible for managing his emotional disasters. I deleted the message. Then I sent his an email, the last communication he would ever receive from me. Your relationship with your parents is not my responsibility to fix. The consequences you're facing are the direct result of your own choices. I will not help you manipulate your family into forgiving you. Any further attempts to contact me will be considered harassment, and I will pursue legal action. I copied his parents on the email for documentation, then created a filter to automatically delete future emails from him ad suit. Kelsey helped me set up monitoring for fake social media accounts. My parents agreed to screen any unexpected visitors. We built a complete wall of protection, and I finally felt like I could breathe. 2 weeks after posting the video, he showed up at my apartment again. Not drunk this time, sober, focused, and that was somehow worse. You need to take it down, he said through the door I refused to open. My parents barely talked to me. Someone sent the video to my boss. I lost my job, Thea. My friends won't answer my calls. You destroyed my life. I looked through the peephole. He looked terrible. Not drunk terrible, but exhausted. Terrible. Dark circles, unwashed hair, the kind of exhaustion that comes from consequences catching up. I'm not taking it down. Please. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. You had chances to do the right thing. You chose not to. Thea, please. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the police. You have 60 seconds to leave. I heard him footsteps retreating down the hallway. Heard a car door slam. Heard the engine start and fade away. I called Kelsey. He came back. Are you okay? Yeah, I handled it. But Kel? I think I need to talk to a lawyer, just in case this escalates. I'll text you my friend's number. He does restraining orders. 3 months later, I got an email from someone I vaguely recognized from the party. The subject line read, "You should know this." The email explained that others in our social circle had experienced similar manipulation. We've all been victims of his games, the person wrote. Different situations, different types of relationships, same underlying pattern, but none of us wanted to be the first to speak up because we knew exactly what his friends would do. The same thing they tried to do to you. When you posted that video, when you refused to back down even when they tried to destroy your reputation, you gave the rest of us permission to tell our stories too. You showed us that it was possible to stand up to him and survive. Attached were screenshots from 3 different people, testimonials about mind games, boundary testing, deliberate insecurity creation. One described being led on for months while my ex-boyfriend was publicly in another relationship. He would text me late at night, tell me he was thinking about me, make me feel special. Then he'd ignore me for days. When I finally asked what we were, he acted like I was crazy for thinking it meant anything. Another talked about being humiliated at a different party 2 years ago. Same group of friends, same setup. They dared his to kiss someone else while I was there. And when I got upset, they all told me I was being too sensitive. They filmed my reaction and joked about posting it. I stayed with him for 6 more months after that, because I thought I was overreacting. The third recounted a pattern of borrowing money and never paying it back. Always with elaborate stories about emergencies, always promising to pay me back next week. I lent his almost $3,000 over 8 months before I finally cut his off. He told everyone I was being cruel and selfish for asking for my own money back. You weren't the only one, the email concluded, but you were the first one brave enough to set real boundaries and stick to them. Thank you for that. You've helped more people than you know. I forwarded it to Kelsey and my parents. My mother called within minutes. Are you okay? I'm relieved, I said honestly. Relieved I got out when I did. 4 months after the party, I was having lunch with Kelsey when I realized I hadn't thought about my ex-boyfriend in over a week. Not once. No random reminders, no sudden waves of anger. I'd gone an entire week just living my life without his taking up any mental space. You look different, Kelsey said, studying my face. Lighter. I feel lighter, I admitted. I feel like I can finally breathe without wondering what I did wrong or what I should have done differently. He smiled. That's what happens when you stop setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. I keep thinking about that email, I said. From the other people he hurt. It's validating, you know? Knowing I wasn't crazy. Knowing the patterns were real. You were never crazy, Kelsey said. He made you feel that way. That's manipulation 101. I almost stayed, if he hadn't been so public about it. But he was. And you didn't. That's what matters. Sometimes I wonder if I would have just forgiven his if it had been private. Kelsey squeezed my hand across the table. Maybe. But that's not what happened. What happened is he humiliated you so badly you couldn't ignore it anymore. And instead of falling apart, you stood up. You told the truth. You helped other people do the same. That's huge, Thea. My ex-boyfriend still tries to contact me occasionally. Fake social media profiles, messages through distant mutual friends, phone calls from numbers I don't recognize. I ignore all of it. His parents reached out once to apologize formally and to let me know they'd made therapy a condition of their son continuing to live with them. I thanked them and wished them well, but made it clear I had no desire for updates about their son's progress. I learned something important through all of this, something I wish I'd understood years earlier. Some people don't deserve second chances. Not when they've shown you exactly who they are through deliberate, calculated cruelty. Not when they've tested your boundaries repeatedly just to see what they can get away with. Second chances are for people who make genuine mistakes, who show real remorse without conditions. They're not for people who plan your humiliation and then gaslight you about whether it really happened. I also learned that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. That I can set boundaries and enforce them even when it's uncomfortable, even when people judge me for it, even when the other person is having a breakdown and begging for mercy. That protecting my peace is more important than protecting someone else's reputation, especially when they deliberately destroyed mine. And I learned that walking away isn't giving up. It's not weakness. It's not being unforgiving or cold. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. Sometimes the strongest boundary you can set is complete absence. Sometimes loving yourself means refusing to love someone who uses that love as a weapon against you. The other day, I ran into one of the people who'd been at the party that night. He stopped me on the street, looked uncomfortable, then said, "I should have said something that night. I should have told you I was sorry for what I saw. Everyone was too caught up in the drama to think about how you were feeling. Thank you for saying that now," I told him. "For what it's worth," he continued, "a lot of us stopped being friends with that whole group after that night. What they did wasn't okay. The way they celebrated your pain wasn't okay. Some of us realized we didn't want to be associated with people who could be that cruel. It meant something hearing that. Knowing that not everyone had thought the humiliation was entertainment. Knowing that there were witnesses who saw it for what it was. I keep the screenshots and videos backed up in 3 places. Not because I plan to use them again, but because I learned that documentation matters. That when someone tries to rewrite history, evidence is your best defense. That protecting yourself with proof isn't paranoia. It's wisdom earned through experience. My ex-boyfriend still tries to contact me occasionally. Fake profiles pop up every few weeks. Messages come through distant acquaintances. Phone calls from numbers I don't recognize. But I ignore all of it. I've built a wall and I maintain it. Not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Not because I haven't forgiven his, but because forgiveness doesn't require giving someone another opportunity to hurt you. Some people think I should forgive his. That holding on to anger isn't healthy. But I'm not holding on to anger. I'm holding on to boundaries. I'm holding on to the knowledge that some people will hurt you for entertainment if you let them. I'm holding on to the lesson that loving someone doesn't mean accepting abuse. There's a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation, between moving on and letting someone back in. I can forgive what happened while still refusing to expose myself to it happening again. My therapist says I'm making excellent progress. That the fact I can talk about all of this without breaking down shows real healing. That my ability to set boundaries shows strength. "Do you think I'll ever trust someone completely again?" I asked him last week. "You'll trust differently, with awareness, while also trusting yourself to leave if you need to. That's not a flaw. That's wisdom. But what if I become too guarded?" "You won't. You know what real manipulation looks like now. You stayed for months giving chances. You only left when the evidence was overwhelming. That's not someone who overreacts. My friends keep saying I'll date again. Will you? Maybe, eventually. The thought doesn't make me panic anymore. That feels like progress. It is progress. Real, measurable progress. I'm starting to believe his. Last month, something unexpected happened. I was meeting a friend for coffee and realized I was standing in front of the warehouse where the party had been. The string lights were still visible through the windows. I stood there for a few minutes waiting to feel something, anger, sadness, humiliation. But I felt nothing. Just a vague sense that it had happened to someone else. In a way, it had. The person who walked into that party doesn't exist anymore. I called Kelsey on my way home. I went past the warehouse today. How was that? Weird. I felt nothing, like looking at an old photo. That's healing. Real healing. I'm proud of me, I admitted. Is that weird to say? Not even a little. You should be proud. You walked away from someone who was destroying you. You set boundaries when everyone said to forgive. You helped other people find their courage. He made his choices, I made mine, and now we both have to live with them. His consequences involve living with the knowledge that he destroyed something good through deliberate cruelty, that he lost people's respect through his own actions, that the reputation he worked so hard to build crumbled when the truth came out. Mine involve being cautious but free, scarred but stronger, learning to trust again but never forgetting what manipulation looks like. I'll take my consequences over his any day. I'm not the same person I was before that party. I'm more cautious now, more protective of my boundaries, quicker to recognize manipulation when I see it developing. Some might call that jaded or cynical. I call it educated. I call it wise. I paid a high price for this knowledge through months of systematic psychological abuse, and I refuse to waste what I learned. My friends are starting to introduce me to people again. I'm not ready yet, but I'm closer than I was. I can imagine dating again without feeling panic. I can think about meeting someone new without immediately assuming they'll hurt me. That's progress, even if it's slower than the people around me would like. The last time someone asked if I was dating, I didn't immediately say no. I said, maybe eventually. 2 words that felt like a victory. 2 words that meant hope was returning slowly, cautiously, but returning nonetheless. Someone at work mentioned recently that I seem lighter. You smile more, they said. You laugh at jokes again. For a while there, you seemed like you were carrying something heavy. It's good to see you without that weight. I hadn't realized it was that obvious. Hadn't realized other people could see the burden I'd been carrying, the constant stress of managing someone else's emotions, walking on eggshells, wondering what I'd done wrong this time. The relief of not having that anymore must show on my face. I'm better now. Not fixed, not healed completely, but better, stronger, more myself than I've been in years. Progress isn't linear, healing isn't fast, and some scars are permanent. But I'm here. I'm free, and I'm choosing myself. And that's enough. Some people will tell you that time heals all wounds. That's not quite true. Time doesn't heal. It just gives you distance from the pain, perspective on what happened, space to rebuild what was broken. The healing part? That's active work. That's choosing yourself every single day even when it's hard. That's setting boundaries and maintaining them. That's refusing to accept less than you deserve just because someone makes you feel like you're asking for too much. And I've learned that lesson well.